Please don't be closed. Okay, that's one. Okay, that's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Ouch. Oh, why the F not? Do I look okay?
Yeah, I don't see any dandruff.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous et bienvenue à Blabla Katie. My name is Katie and today we're going to blabla about how to pronounce the French letter E. If you watched my last video on all the names and sounds of the French alphabet, then you know that the French letter E is actually called E, and that there are 3 potential sounds for this letter. By the end of this video, you'll be able to identify the 3 different sounds, you'll be able to produce them yourselves, and you'll be able to choose the correct sound for the E in any given French word. As usual, I'll be giving you lots of different activities during this video for you to practice in real time. This is going to necessitate some understanding of the other French letters and how to pronounce them. So if you haven't seen my last video on the French alphabet, I highly recommend that you go check that out first and then move on to this video. C'est parti! As usual, we're going to start with a pre-assessment so that you can get a baseline for your understanding of the French letter E. You'll be doing the same pre-assessment activities later in the video, so I recommend that you write down your answers or record them depending on which activity it is, so that later you can compare your responses and hear and see your progress. First, you're going to listen to me say 8 different words that have a bunch of different E's in them, and you're going to identify which E sound the word is using. You can choose between the schwa, the open syllable, or the closed syllable. And if you have no idea what these 3 titles mean, that's totally okay. We will get to that in the explanation. Just do the best that you can for now. I also want to point out that sometimes E's are silent. We're not going to cover those rules in this video, but for now, if the E is silent in any given word, I'm going to black it out so that you know that you don't have to worry about it. Tête, bébé, danger, elle, cheval, demander, exprimer, mélanger. Hold on to your answers, and now we're moving on to the next pre-assessment activity in which you'll be pronouncing these 3 phrases to the best of your ability. Again, any silent letters will be blacked out. If that was a little overwhelming for you, or if you just had absolutely no idea how to pronounce those sentences, that's totally okay. We're now going to jump into the 3 different types of sounds that can be the French letter E. First, we're starting with the schwa. This schwa is the same sound as the name of the French letter E. The way that I think of pronouncing it is if something were to hit me in the gut, causing me to say like that. Not necessarily the most technical explanation, but it really does help. You can also sort of hear this sound in certain syllables of English words, like the double O sound in good, or the sound attached to the I in pencil, It's not exact, but I think those are very helpful approximations to understand how to make the schwa in French for the letter E. You will pronounce this sound in words that are monosyllabic, or that only have 1 syllable. For example, le, me, te, ce, ne, etc. Or if the letter E is at the end of the first syllable without an accent in a word that is more than 1 syllable. Stick with me. If we take the tried and true example, debout, this word is 2 syllables. The E is in the first syllable, de. It's at the end of the syllable, de, E, and there's no accent mark on the E. It fits all of those criteria, so you know it is going to be the E sound, debout. The same thing with dessus. Another example is pelouse. This E can also be pronounced when it's at the end of the last syllable, for example, the word cible. But this is a little trickier because oftentimes native French speakers don't actually pronounce the E at the end of that, so we're going to save that explanation for a future video on silent letters in French. Now we'll move on to the mini activity. I'm going to read both words on the screen, and you have to identify which word has the schwa in it. Désir, demande, le but, les buts. And now for the answers. In the first example, demande is the correct one. The first syllable is de, This is because is at the end of the first syllable in a word that has more than one syllable. Demande. For the second example, le but is the correct response because is at the end of a word that only has one syllable and there are no accents. Moving on to the next mini activity for the schwa sound. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to decide if the schwa is present in any of these words, and if it is, try to pronounce that word. And again, any silent O's will be blacked out. And here are the correct responses. First, we have je, because once again, it is a one-syllable word. The is at the end, and there are no accent marks. Je. Regarde. Here we have a word that is more than one syllable, but the is at the end of the first syllable, and there are no accent marks. So it's regarde. And last, we have mélange. The schwa is not present in this word. It's a completely different sound altogether, which is a perfect segue for the next sound, which is called the open-ended syllable. The sound for this is a. You want to kind of think of it like the a sound in the English word name, but without the a part. You cut it off before you get to all of the y's. A. I think the difference between this open-ended syllable, a, is very clearly different from the schwa sound, A. You can find the A sound in words that have what's called the accent aigu. The aigu accent is this. For example, in the words été, pâté, défi. If you see this accent, you know immediately it's going to be the open-ended syllable sound for the letter A. You'll also find this sound with syllables that end with a vowel sound, but that have a silent consonant along with it. For example, if you have the word trajet, here we have the T at the end, but it's silent, meaning that the the letter is going to have the A sound. It's the same thing with manger. It ends with an R, but the R is silent. That's why you're gonna have the A. And another example is voulez. So now we're going to do the same mini activities as we did for the schwa. I'm going to pronounce these three words, and you just have to figure out if any of them have the A sound. École. Explication. Refaire. Aller. And now here are the correct answers. In the first example, you know that école is going to have the A sound because of the accent aigu. I think that's a really easy one. And the second example, aller is correct. The R is silent, which makes the an open-ended syllable, which means you have the A sound. Now the next activity, you're going to decide if any of them have the A sound, and if they do, try to pronounce them out loud. Okay, here are the correct responses, and the pronunciation is parler. This is going to have the A sound because the Z is silent. Répéter. All three of these have the A sound. You know that the first two have the A sound because they have the accent aigu. It's really easy to identify. And the third is also an A sound for the same reason as parler. The letter after the which is R, is silent. So you know that the is left as an open-ended syllable sound, which means it's A. And finally, we have et. This sound is going to lead us into the third and final sound for the French letter E, which is the closed-ended syllable sound. You want to think of this sound like the in the word bet or bed, for example, And it sometimes is a little difficult. I think it's most difficult to differentiate this one from the A sound, but it's okay, we've got some practice coming your way. You're going to use this sound when it is an accent grave, which is the opposite of accent aigu. So it's really important to remember which direction the accents are in. Accent aigu, et, accent grave, Some examples for words that have the accent grave, the sound, chair, prière, and crème. You're also going to use this sound when you have what's called a circumflex. It's like the little hat on top of the E. For example, bête, pêche, and arrêter. Faites attention with arrêter. There's only one in that word, and it comes in the second syllable, the with the circumflex. You're also going to find this sound when you have the French letter E with a double consonant following. For example, cesse, E-S-S, cesse. Appel, E-L-L. And vienne, E-N-N. And finally, you will find this close-ended syllable for the French letter E in syllables that end with a consonant sound. For example, the word set, Faites attention, the P in this word is silent, but the T is not. You're going to have the E be the close-ended sound. Set. Exprès. Here you have two E sounds and they are both the close-ended syllable. This is because the first syllable of this word, X, ends in a consonant sound. So you're going to have the E sound. With the second E in this word, in the second syllable, it has the accent grave. So you know immediately that it is also going to be the close-ended sound for E, which is E. And finally, mère. Mère. The last sound is actually a consonant, it's the R sound. So the E that comes right before it is going to be the close-ended sound, mère. So now we're moving on to the same mini activities for the E sound. First I'm going to pronounce a few words and you have to identify which word has the E sound. Addresse, laver, légumes, crêpes. And here are the correct responses. Addresse has the close-ended sound for E, which is because the E is followed by a double consonant, by SS. Crêpe has the circumflex, it has the little hat. So you know that it's going to be the close-ended syllable, the sound, crêpe. The next mini activity, here are 3 different words. You have to decide if any of them have the sound, and if you think that they do, try to pronounce them out loud. Okay, here are the correct pronunciations. Rêver, rêver. The first E, since it has a circumflex, is going to be the sound, but the second E, because it ends with a silent consonant, is going to be the sound. Planète, planète. This is going to be a close-ended syllable sound, the sound, because it has the accent grave. And finally, prêter. Again, there is the sound with the E that has the circumflex, the hat. And then the second E is the A sound because it ends in an open-ended vowel sound. There is a silent consonant after the E. I also want to give you this sort of recap chart, which gives you all of the different E sounds with their accents and a couple of examples that we went over. I think this is really helpful to put them side by side to be able to differentiate between the 3. But if you feel comfortable and confident with these 3 different sounds for the French letter E, then we can move on to the final assessment. So you're just going to do the same 2 activities that you did for the pre-assessment, and I would recommend that you also come up with explanations on your own for each answer that you give. First, listen to these 8 words and identify which E sound is present. Again, I will black out any E's that are silent. Tête, bébé, danger, elle, cheval, demander, exprimer, mélanger. To show you the correct responses, I'm going to use a color code. So the Schwa, the E sound, is going to be in blue. The open-ended syllable, the A sound, is going to be in red. And the closed-ended syllable sound, the is going to be in green. If you're still not really sure why a specific E has a certain sound, please do put your question in the comments down below and I will get to it as soon as I can. And now you're going to pronounce these 3 phrases to the best of your ability. There are a lot of different E sounds, so bon courage. Before reading the correct pronunciation, I am going to again color code the different sounds for the French letter E. Le père n'est pas expressif. Les mères ne sont pas émotionnelles. Le frère de ses élèves prépare une belle fête. Once again, if you have any questions as to why a specific E has a certain E or A or E sound, please do put your question in the comments down below and I'll try to clarify any confusion that you have. So that's all for today's video. If you got any value out of this lesson, please do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I think that's all for now. Alors, à la prochaine!